I'm absolutely committed to working with the families and the community in Winnipeg to come to the right resolution.
Tonight, the new Minister of Crown-Indigenous Relations says he's
and continue to move forward and continue to build our community.
A Saskatchewan First Nation celebrates self-governance with a new minister.
Kikatarik itself is a classroom. Each and every year we go there, we're finding new things.
And a new virtual reality project is tracking climate change in a remote northern park. Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. Canada's new Minister of Crown-Indigenous Relations says he wants to work with the families who are calling for 2 area landfills to be searched for the remains of their loved ones. Gary Anasangari says it's a heartbreaking issue that he has been following for the last several months. Ananda Sangari's predecessor, Mark Miller, was supportive of the search and critical of the government of Manitoba for saying it would not back the efforts. During an event in Whitecap, Dakota Nation on Monday, Ananda Sangari says he hopes to visit Winnipeg as soon as possible and continues to review all of the available information.
What happened in Winnipeg is just outrageous. I think every Canadian ought to be outraged by what happened, and as I understand more deeper the situation, I will be able to comment further. But at this point, I can say I'm absolutely committed to working with the families and the community in Winnipeg to come to the right resolution.
Well, as the World Police and Fire Games continue in Winnipeg, tensions persist and the calls to search the landfills for the remains of missing Indigenous women are continuing. As Sav Jones reports, more aspects of the games are coming under scrutiny.
Bike bells chime to the beat of chants demanding for a landfill search on Friday.
Search the landfill! Cancel games!
Cycling protesters rode through Winnipeg.
Athletes from 70 different countries around the world into the country, into Winnipeg.
While the full economic impact won't be known until after the Games, the cost of the Games is around $17 million. Funding from all levels of government combined amount to around half of that. Edwards explains where that money will go.
It's a combination of operations as well as anything from venue rentals to our marketing to engagement within our opening ceremonies and our athletes village, which are where our cultural element. And
Camp Mercedes is set up right next to the cultural element of the athletes village, set up to remember one of the women whose remains are thought to be in the landfill. The irony is palpable, says one protester.
The timing for the Games couldn't be any worse with the need to search the landfills at the moment. It actually feels incredibly disrespectful as a resident of Winnipeg who is in support of searching the landfill to invest in games and extracurricular activities for police.
Winnipeg Police Cause Harm claim the World Police and Fire Games have racist roots. The first games took place in California in 1967 as a morale boost during mass tensions with Black liberation and anti-Vietnam War movements.
So that spirit, of course, is going to be carried with the Games. I don't think that's something we should be putting public money towards.
Edwards denied that claim, saying in an email to APTN News, both the host society and federation unequivocally stand for diversity and inclusion, as these games were founded in the principles of camaraderie and athletic competition. A stylized American flag known as the Thin Blue Line flag popped up at the Los Angeles Police Department tent at an event on Sunday. The flag is associated with the Blue Lives Matter movement, a rebuttal to the Black Lives Matter protests against police brutality. Mike Edwards was quoted by another news station saying that the games support freedom of expression and would not dictate the use of the flag. He says freedom of speech is also supported as designated protest zones are set up at events.
We respect everybody's right to for their freedom of expression, and so we don't want to impact that in any way. But we still want to, work alongside and work respectfully, and we still maintain that offer for open dialogue to engage with them, so that we can have that conversation.
But Friesen says it is not enough.
The only reason to have a protest zone is so that protests can be criminalized elsewhere, and we won't stand for that.
Steph Jonesa, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
APTN News received an email from the World Police Fire Games saying, in part, each team decides what flags they bring, and our organization is not involved in those decisions. Meanwhile, the Manitoba government unveiled 2 designs of license plates that will support the families and loved ones of MMIWG-2S. These plates are being introduced after receiving unanimous support from all parties and royal assent in May. One plate will feature a red handprint, and the other design features a red dress. The plates will cost $70, with $30 of that going towards a charity in support of MMIWG-2S families and loved ones. The license plates will be available for purchase in the fall. Still in Manitoba, a provincial cabinet minister who has described himself as Métis is facing new questions about his status after a report by the public broadcaster. Environment and Climate Minister Kevin Klein told reporters Monday that he is on a journey of discovering his background. Klein says he learned about a Métis connection on his mother's side years ago from a group called Painted Feather Woodland Métis in Eastern Ontario. That group's website says it accepts online submissions for status and considers anyone with an Aboriginal ancestor as Métis. The Whitecap Dakota Nation in Saskatchewan celebrated a major milestone Monday, an announcement of a self-government agreement. New Minister of Crown-Indigenous Relations Gary Ananda Sangari and Chief Darcy Bear were on hand for the announcement. The agreement recognizes that the Whitecap Dakota Nation has an inherent right to
build our nation and continue to create a recognition of our ancestors, recognition of our people here today as Aboriginal peoples of Canada, but also future generations to come.
Burial investigation projects at former resident.
Recreational equipment for fitness.
Welcome back. An Indigenous addiction treatment facility in Blind River is poised for a makeover. After more than 30 years operating out of a century-old building, the Ben-Bewapka Treatment Center is getting a new building. First turn of soil this week marked the site where those seeking treatment for addiction will visit for years to come. The federal government is investing $14 million into the treatment center. CTV's Corey Nordstrom reports.
It's on this land where the new home of the Ben-Bewapka Treatment Center will assist Indigenous people struggling with addiction.
It's going to be a place for our community to start healing, our communities to start healing. And, you know, with all of the addictions and mental health issues that are ranging the country right now, this is going to be a big step forward for the region.
The building now in use was built over a century ago and has served northeastern Ontario First Nation communities since 1990.
I was the one who wrote the original proposal for the treatment center at the expanded facility. I think it's going to be even a better facility than we've experienced the last 33 years.
The center has been trying for 7 years to secure funding for an updated building. The new $14 million facility is being paid for by the federal government.
The new facility will have state-of-the-art recreational equipment for fitness, modern facilities related to kitchen areas where the clients will be able to actually engage. There's a client area for teaching them how to skills related to cooking and helping with meals. There's a whole upgrade related to cultural areas.
The current residence building at Ben-Bewapka can house 11 people with addictions issues. The new build will be able to service 16. But the century-old buildings are still usable for other purposes and now present an opportunity to expand the level of care on site into new directions.
There are a number of options we've looked at. Maybe some transitional support housing, maybe making a hub of education excellence for treatment and mental health. So we are going to be looking at a number of options.
Tenders have gone out to begin the site build. Ben-Bewapka officials hope to have the new center in operation in a year's time. Corey Nordstrom, CTV News, Blind River.
A recent report by the Auditor General found Indigenous Services Canada did not provide the support First Nations needed to manage emergencies such as floods and wildfires. 2023 has already been the worst wildfire season on record in Canada, with many Indigenous communities being affected. The NDP is calling on the federal government to support First Nations dealing with climate disasters. For more, Daryl spoke to Lori Idlut, the NDP MP for Nunavut.
Ms. Idlow, thank you so much for taking some time for us today. You and your colleague Nikki Ashton have written Indigenous Services Minister Patty Hajdu calling for concrete action to help First Nations dealing with the climate crisis and extreme weather events. Why did you feel the need to write the minister?
There are a few reasons to write the minister. Right now with the cabinet shuffle, I think there's an opportunity to shift back to what the original commitments were for this Liberal government to work better with Indigenous peoples. And I think that they could use this opportunity to be reminded of the important commitments that need to be continued to invest in for First Nations communities. I'm recalling the Auditor General's report, for example, the stark information provided by the Auditor General regarding First Nations peoples being evacuated going as far as back as 2009 is completely unacceptable, and we need to make sure that this government is responding to the needs of First Nations, Métis, Inuit communities.
So then what are some of the solutions and actions that can be taken here?
Well, unfortunately, the solutions aren't brand new. These are the same solutions that have been offered for decades. They need to invest in First Nations communities. First Nations need to be able to have the resources that they need so that they can respond to emergencies. Their voice needs to be heard. I know that First Nations, Métis, Inuit communities have important knowledge and experience regarding the land, regarding the environment. And it is their expertise that needs to be heard so that when responding to emergencies, it's the First Nations that are making sure that they're calling to responding to those emergencies. So investments as well as ensuring that Indigenous peoples are part of the solution.
And what do you think is the price of inaction?
It will be a continual portrayal of Canada's genocide against Indigenous peoples. If there's no action, it means that this government is still willing to use its genocidal policies to erase Indigenous peoples from Canada. So they need to do better. They need to invest so that they can see Indigenous peoples as the original peoples of Canada and work with Indigenous peoples to make sure that we're all having a better Canada that we all can be proud of.
Ms. Idla, we'll have to leave it there, but we certainly do appreciate you coming on and sharing a bit of your thoughts with us today.
Thank you. Kuya Namik Darrow.
Indigenous Services Minister Patty Hajdu was not available for an interview, but in a statement, Hajdu said these emergencies take a horrific toll on First Nations. She said Indigenous Services works closely with chiefs and community first responders with what they need when they need it. Hajdu said she welcomed the Auditor General's report and thanked Idlut and Ashton for their relentless advocacy. After over 130 days of strike action, public housing workers in Nunavut's capital have finally reached an agreement. We have this update now from Trevor Wright.
Unionized Iqaluit Housing Authority workers with the Nunavut Employees Union today have signed a collective agreement with their employers. This ends a strike that has been happening since March 17th this year. The new deal includes Inuktitut bilingual language bonuses to be included alongside English and French, as well as leave for traditional activities and having National Reconciliation Day as a paid holiday. NEU President Jason Rochon said this has been made possible thanks to the intervention of the Nunavut Housing Corporation, who made changes to the Iqaluit Housing Board in the lead-up to the collective agreement being signed. Trevor Wright, APTN National News, Iqaluit.
There's a new tool to monitor climate change in the Yukon. Details on that and more after the break. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. Out for a walk at the Inner Harbour in Victoria, British Columbia. Thank you to Jamie Desjardins for sharing this picture. If you want to be featured as our photo of the day, you can email your pictures to share@aptn.ca, or you can tag APTN News on Instagram. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast, 25 and showers for Halifax, partly cloudy and 22 in Charlottetown. 16 with rain in Kuujjuaq, a high of just 11, and rain in Nain. 24 in Montreal, 22 for Chibougamau. Rain and 27 in Sault Ste. Marie, cloudy and 26 for North Bay. Showers and 30 in Thunder Bay, 28 with rain in Sioux Lookout. 25 under sunny skies in God's Lake and Norway House, sunny and 26 in the Pas. Rain and 28 in Winnipeg, 31 under the sun in Brandon. Sunny and 31 for Regina, 29 and sunny in Saskatoon. Sun's out and 27 for Meadow Lake, 23 in Buffalo Narrows. In northern Alberta, showers and 21 in High Level, 16 is the high with rain in Grand Prairie. 28 with rain in Edmonton, 35 in Lethbridge. 23 in Vancouver, 28 for Kamloops. 19 with showers in Prince George, rain and 23 for Smithers. 25 in Old Crow, showers and 23 in Whitehorse. 21 with rain in Yellowknife, Smoke, and 25 for Norman Wells. 12 with showers in Sax Harbor, 24 and rain in Paulituck. Sun's out and 22 for Chesterfield, sunny and 24 in Baker Lake. 5 in Resolute, 12 in Arctic Bay. What does it mean to witness climate change? It's a question scientists are trying to answer on a remote Yukon island, and they're using virtual reality to do it. Here's Sarah Connors with more on that story.
History. The land is starting to erode by itself.
Virtual reality project Kikitarik Arctic at Risk is transporting people to the Yukon's northernmost point, letting them see for themselves how climate change is drastically impacting Canada's north. A remote island off the Yukon's northern coast, Kikitarik has been a protected park since 1987. But in recent decades, the effects of climate change have altered the island's landscape.
Kikitarik itself is a classroom. Each and every year we go there, we're finding new things.
As an Inuvialuit person with ancestral ties to the island, Senior Park Ranger Richard Gordon felt it was important to lend his voice for the project.
It has a lot of history to the ancestry of our people, so that's why we protect it today and still make use of it today.
A place only accessible by boat or plane, Gordon says the project helps connect people to the island and gives them a glimpse of what's happening firsthand.
A lot of that has happened, and it really opens your mind to saying, like, why is this happening?
The tech itself is developing, but what it can do is give you that really immersive experience of an environment if you can't have the opportunity to go there for yourself.
Scientist Isla Meyer-Smith has been researching climate change on Kikitarik since 2008. She says the project was born from the COVID pandemic when she and other researchers weren't sure what to do with the data they were collecting. Thanks to funding from the National Geography Society, that project became a reality.
For people who've never had the opportunity to really think about change going on in the Arctic, hopefully they're going to learn a bit about the impacts that are happening as the climate warms.
How do we work together to protect Kikitarik for future generations? We have to adapt.
With the island's future in jeopardy, Gordon is hopeful the project will serve as a tool for educating young Inuvialuit about the island's importance.
And it gives them confidence that they too have a voice in this world as it changes. They too have a voice in protecting their culture.
Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
Looks like a beautiful place. Well, that is all the time we have for your APTN National News for this Tuesday. For much more, you can visit our website, aptnnews.ca, or visit our YouTube page. I'm Dennis Ward. Marcy, thanks for being with us. Stick around, an encore presentation of Face to Face is next. Have a great night.